We'll be looking on these in more detail in a few. There are some keywords that we're going to look on. See, please. Recharge. To add life to a suppressed situation. When we speak about recharge, from a spiritual perspective, we're talking about life from adding life to a suppressed situation. Suppress. Gradually pulling away from the main source of power. Now, when you're in a suppressed situation, it means that your life or the things, everything around you, is basically getting less. In science, in physics, they will tell you that when you're charged, it's either you're charged or you're consumed. So when you're charged, there's enough energy. When you're not charged, then you're consumed. There's no energy, you're blank. The main source of power, we talk about your suppressed, gradually pulling away from the main source of power. Speaking about the main source of power, it is the channels that gives energy. In the spiritual landscape, strength to endure. Now, our main source of power, young people, old people, Christian, it should come from God. We talk about our main source of power. How are we going to get recharged? When we talk about recharge, how does that, how will that happen? Suppress. Moving from a suppressed situation and looking back to the source of power. Alright, here we have a diagram. I can remember when I was in high school, I was doing CSEC. And remember I went into the class and the English teacher came in and she cleaned the board. We had a class before and she cleaned the board. And she said to us that we must write a descriptive piece on the whiteboard. The board was clean, there was nothing on the board. And she said that we should describe what is there. And you know she wanted a more 5 paragraph and so on and so forth. In a 11th grade classroom, somebody said to you that, hey, look on the empty board and write what is there. What would come to your mind? What would you say to the teacher? What would you be thinking? Let me hear from you. What would you be thinking? The teacher come into the class and say, hey, clean the board and write a descriptive piece. What would you be thinking? Let me hear from you.
I have something new to write on. There's nothing on it.
There's nothing on it, so you don't know. What do you be thinking?
What would you write?
What would you write? The teacher clean the board and give it to write something. What would you be thinking of the teacher? Because, listen, in my mind, I was thinking that the teacher was mad. Because the teacher come in the class and clean the board and tell to write a descriptive piece on a whiteboard. There's nothing there for me to write. But looking at this picture, it is not white today, right? We're looking at, perhaps, we can see a charger, a tablet being charged. Now, if I should say to you, describe what you're seeing on the board, what would you say?
Tablet, looking for energy.
Tablet perhaps wanting energy.
Tablet is plugged in?
Yeah, it's being charged.
Plugged into a source.
It's plugged into a source, nice. Tablet being charged, nice. Alright, so looking on this board now, this is my analogy of looking on this picture. There are other pictures that you can find. Now, looking at this picture, one, we have the socket. The socket gives the power. And we have what we call the adapter on a charger. That's it. This little part here, we call it the adapter, right? And we also have the USB. And the USB is plugged into the tablet. Now, the USB, I will use the USB. I would love to say that the USB is used to transport the energy that we so need. That the tablet needs so that life can come back into the tablet. Also, when I look on the tablet, I realize the screen is blank. The possibilities is that the tablet could have been in a consumed situation or an overly suppressed situation. The tablet is dead. There's no life in the tablet. And because the tablet is dead, then you want to plug it into a source to get life into the tablet. Now, this is how we can be sometimes as Christians. Right? When we find ourselves in a situation that we consider to be dead, we need to be plugged into the source of life for us to be recharged. And one of the other things that I would identify while looking at this picture, if you notice where the tablet is located and where the source is located, the source is above the tablet. And that's for me, it means a lot. Us. The moment we start looking on God or the source of power as we're on the same level, then something is wrong. We must be looking on the source of power above us. Right? Because the source is always above us. So looking on this picture, I can say that, hey, the source is above the consumer, which is us. Us being in a suppressed situation, us being in a state of depression. When we're down in the valley, we're in that valley experience, we must look above where we can get the source. And of course, we know we have the USB, and I said the USB is used for me as a transporter of energy. And that's where the Holy Spirit comes in, to bridge the gap between us human beings and God. Next slide, please. How do we become suppressed? As I said, when we are suppressed, we're gradually moving away from the main source. It's like we're in a state of depression. Nothing going for it. You start to wonder, but it seems like everything around you seems to be getting lower and lower. And you start to say, hey, I just can't manage it. And at times for us as young people, while being in church, it seems like everything all right, and then another time it just looks like we take a couple steps backwards, and you start to wonder, you start to ponder, what is happening? How will this change? How do we become suppressed? Next slide. These are some things that there are several ways in which we can become suppressed. Several ways, right? But these are some things. We're going to look and grab them quickly. We listen to the wrong voices. Most of us are guilty of this. We're in church, things are going for it. And as soon as somebody outside starts to whisper something in our ears, and it sounds good, it feels good, and we say, yes, we start to listen to the wrong voice. And because of listening to that voice that perhaps we should not be listening to, we move away from the source of power. It helps us to put us in a state of suppression. Also, there are times we're in church, and when the church sister tell us, hey, the dress too short, the skirt too short. Hey, if you come to church early and the church sister is telling you that, you don't want to hear that. So, the voice that should have been the right voice, we move away from the voice that should have been the right voice, and we conform to the voice that perhaps is leading us outside of the church. And most of us are guilty of that. We become prey to this many times, right? So we listen to the wrong voice, which sometimes lead us into a state of depression. Next slide. We pay too much attention to technology, and that again can lead us into a state of suppression. I'm sure if younger persons were here, they will say to me, well, technology is the way forward. We can agree. Technology is the way forward. We all, no more than ever, all of us are using technology.